Make sure I'm in there, and also click this button here to say, this is good. Yeah, we're live. It's definitely happening, which is exciting. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to click this button because everything's so professional. Pin. I've tweeted. People, it's happening. And now I'm going to follow the chat in a tiny little box here and try and keep on top of it all. It's all happening. We've got lots of people with us. Giel, Harvey, Toby, Matt, Gary, David. It's all kicking off. Everyone, we have Tim Dunn here. He's in the corner. He's tiny. That's no good. Let's get Tim up and large. Hello, everyone.
No,
Tim is here.
Much better if I'm smaller.
Yes. It's 7 o'clock. I think. I mean, yeah. I feel like this feels like a good time to start. 7 o'clock. That's the time we said we would. Afternoon, everyone. It's not afternoon, is it? It's evening, really. 7 o'clock. I have tea. Tim has wine, possibly. We have whiskey as well. That's for later. The wine is there, safely positioned. Welcome to Rail Natter, everyone. We have Tim Dunn off of the Architecture the Railways Built. Did everyone watch it?
Thank you for having me.
It was brilliant. You were on it, and everyone watched it, and it was terrific. And we've got lots of people are confused by the chat. It's all kicking off. Send your questions. This is live, so send your comments, questions. We'll address them. Today we're going to have lots of fun because Tim has brought. So I asked Tim to bring how many, like 5 to 10 photographs, right? That you're going to go through and describe. So we have 21 photographs to go through.
It's a quick fire round this week.
The thing, it's going to be quick. It is going to be quick fire. We're going to keep to time because otherwise Tim will just collapse face first into his wine because it's Wednesday and it's already been about 2 weeks worth of life in the last 3 days for poor Tim, right? So I think let's not dither around in the intro. I think let's get cracking. Welcome to Rail Natter. Press this button. City 225. It's nice and long. There's music that goes with that, but we can't hear it on our side. Welcome. So Tim, we're here. Let's not dither around. Let's get cracking. We've got lots of people joining. Lots of people are saying things. Oh, there are okay. So I suppose we'll point out because we have quite a few international viewers on here. Sincere apologies, but unless you use a clever VPN or something, you can't. We didn't say that. You can't watch UKTV out of the UK. As far as I can tell, that's probably right, isn't it, Tim? At the moment, it's a UK borders thing. It's not. It might find its way elsewhere, but at the moment, you have to be in the UK to watch it or watch it and catch up. I think that's right.
Yeah, because it's commissioned by the Yesterday channel, which is a UK TV company. So obviously get first dibs on it, and so it's although it is 2/3 UK buildings and structures and engineering, and 1/3 international. It currently isn't yet available overseas, unless of course you do somehow go to the UKTV website player thing with a VPN, which
None of us have said
I wouldn't suggest anyone tries to do that.
No.
But yeah, it's mostly UK people. Yes, I've put the link in the chat. If you scroll up,
yes,
over there, you can then scroll up and you can probably get the link to it.
Marvelous, right?
Yes, episode 1 was last night, and it was.
You were live tweeting too. It was great. We were following the live tweeting. I was very surprised when Dave Gent appeared. I was like, "It's Dave
Dr.
Gent."
Dave.
Yeah, Dr. Dave. He's one of my colleagues.
He was
when
brilliant.
I was at Atkins. Yeah. And it makes sense. He's based in Derby, and he's very good at very specialised types of structure, as you know. He talked about Benelli, which was terrific. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press this button, and then I'm going to press this button, and we're going to do this. Oh, there it is. So we've gone very small, and everyone can now see. Well, what can they see, Tim? I don't think you've ever talked about this place.
I can get my wine because right. So this is obviously the largest operating mechanical signal box in the world. There is one larger, but doesn't operate. There's actually one's in Melbourne in Australia. This is Shrewsbury Severn Bridge Junction, and of course just out in the West Midlands in Shropshire. And this is a remarkable London North Western Railway box that, I mean, architecturally, it isn't anything particularly unusual apart from its absolute size. It's like it's a modular building, pretty standard pattern that they just sort of extrapolated and multiplied up, and we managed to get access to it. And it's a building that I've gone past 100 times. Since I used to use Wrexham and Shropshire Railway to go up to Shropshire, up to now on Avanti trains, and I've gone past it. And what's it like inside? What is it like inside?
Ooh.
And it was on my list of places I wanted to go for the series. Out of 400, it made the final cut of 40.
Yes, I used to go past. I used to go past this a lot as well. So my parents live near Aberystwyth, so I used to go past it regularly when I was going from Edinburgh as a student down to see my folks. And every time I go past it, I'd see it, and it'd be like, this thing is they've stretched this. This is one of those things where someone's
massive.
got excitable on paint and made it too big.
Yeah. So this is by the kind of the diamond crossings between it and Shrewsbury station platforms. And in the episode we actually go to later on in the series, we actually go and look at Shrewsbury Station itself, the building, which is a glorious structure. In fact, they extended it about 120 years ago by extending it downwards, the Shrewsbury Station building. They actually kind of burrowed underneath it, shored the whole building up, and put a new story in underneath where the booking hall is now.
I did not know
And it's covered in gargoyles and so on that have been carved in the faces allegedly of the people working on it. But we go and we go and meet a local historian who knows this building really well, and we met a really, really lovely chap one of the Network Rail guys who took us to go into this building. So we went down the platforms. We were giving a safety briefing.
Oh, there's a
It's
picture.
the next picture.
Yeah,
You can see us traipsing across this zigzag path. And that was I need to take a picture of this. This is great. And we head across with all our cameras on little sort of trolleys to go look inside this thing. And the Network Rail guys were so helpful because, I mean, they know they've got this fun signal box because everyone loves it, but they just love showing it off.
Well, I mean, it's sat in this wonderful lattice work of track. The whole area is just like, it's a bit of a playground for railway nerds, really. There's all sorts of glorious stuff going on.
Oh, yeah. And what's brilliant about this, of course, it's one of is it 3 or 4 live boxes around Shrewsbury?
Yeah, because there's a huge one at the other end that you go past and you think, oh, that's the huge... And no, it's the other side. So what's this thing?
Yeah. So you got the Great Western style one at the top end, which is the Crew Junction one. And we actually filmed there for a bit as well, but didn't make the final cut, sadly. Because, again, you're trying to edit this stuff down to fit an hour of television, and you can't fit everything in. And we had a whole day just around the box for only about 16 minutes, I think, of footage in the end. That's how television works. You have to do a lot of cut-ins and asking questions again and so on. Yeah, it was just an absolute delight. So what's the next picture? What's the next picture?
Do that. Oh, here we go. Getting on to the good stuff now. People have been asking questions about levers already and how many are active. I think these pictures might start making the point.
Yeah, so I want to show this one. And just I've put... There's a really nice article that we've written in Rail magazine, which of course is one of the kind of the main industry magazines, and that comes out on Saturday digitally, so you can read the whole kind of behind the scenes footage of how we made the program and how it came to be about. Just so you know, I'm not giving it out tonight how it all came about and who fixed it for us, but that's in the magazine. But I think one of these pictures actually is in the magazine, and I just want to show you this because you think, like, how do you get a big chair like that up into a signal box?
Yeah, this isn't.
And
just
the answer is 2 blokes and a big bit of rope.
Laurel and Hardy style.
Yeah.
Yeah, crikey, okay.
So again, a brilliant day. So this is looking at the track diagram, which is fairly accurate. Obviously, some lines are missing off that one that you can see there now, but you can tell that you see the levers on the left hand side, just for reference. The white ones are no longer in use. The red ones are, I looked to me up, the signals, and I think the blue ones are the points. So, from memory, again, if they're the same as the ones I grew up with on Westinghouse, because I grew up from the age of about 11 operating signals in sort of ex-London Transport and Southern Region signals at Bekonscot Model Railway, the Model Village in Bucks. And the whole railway is about 100, 98 years old now. The signal box, it actually has ex-British Rail equipment in it. So I grew up with these levers, and so I know how signalling works, but not on a mainline side. So to go up to this one was amazing, and you can see all the block signalling equipment up there on the left on that shelf that hangs down. Not all of it's being used, but I think it's something like 100 and something levers, of which like 50 something are operating. So the majority of levers just are still being used, despite all the sidings coming out and so on. And for the foreseeable future, this box will be in use, because there's no point replacing it, because it all works very well. Yeah. And there's no plans to change signalling with digital, because works just fine.
They've got the benefit of being right at the interface of lots of different interlocking areas, and the signallers will come and shout at me now, which means it's kind of in a funny place where it doesn't need to be, because it's on the interface. It usefully if it stays mechanical, it doesn't result in everything. It's not a blocker because it's at the interface, so it can just sort of sit there as a mechanical interlocking. It's brilliant. I love it. I love the lights illuminated in the background on that absolutely delightful signalling plan. It's just
and they flick and change as you go. And they actually let me after a. I mean, I've mucked around with signals on steam railways in the past. And they were like, well, do you want to signal some trains in? And I was like, what? Should I be doing this? And they were like, well, we're here. You're wearing your high vis. We told you what to do. It's just pulling a lever, right? And doing those points. So for about half an hour, they let me. They had a nice rest, whilst I had to do the bell codes, talking to the guys in the crew junction box and pulling levers. And honestly, pulling the levers, and so there's the train waiting outside. It's coming from Wolverhampton or Birmingham, a West Midlands train, and I'm like, there's passengers on there waiting for me to pull this lever. I'm actually holding these passengers up, and you suddenly felt this sort of this rail god. It's quite good fun. It's lots of fun, and just a lovely, lovely afternoon in that box. Just I could spend a lot of time there, just watching the systems going ping, 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 and talking to the boxes. I mean, a really fun group.
Whenever you're big or small, mechanical signal boxes, they always have some source of. In this case, it's a lovely carbon monoxide producing like electric heater from 1987. In other cases, there's like an actual fire. That's probably fine in a signal box. And there's always a massive armchair. They're always like really comfortable. It's a little bit of railway history that is petering out, and it's understandable. We have a railway that's very intensive. We have to move forwards, but it's a little bit of that warm nostalgia of sort of signal boxes with someone who's just sat in there, and it's like their second home. They've got their cup of tea. They've just made themselves a bacon sarnie, and they're there flicking signals and pressing bells, and it is wonderful. It is wonderful. And there are loads. I mean, there are still dozens and dozens and dozens. I mean, I don't know how many. There's probably still in excess of 100, 200, I don't know. Lots and lots of mechanical signal boxes still around. These little ones all over the place, particularly for level crossings, actually. And so there are these little pockets of nostalgia sort of around the country. It's brilliant. It's really good.
They're lovely. I mean, we can't expect them to stay there forever, and they won't. It's interesting. One of the things we found over the series is just how many different buildings have been repurposed for different things, either within the railway or beyond. It's interesting to see how, some of them, like the signal box at York Station, for example, is now a Costa Coffee. The one that we didn't go down to it, but one of my favourite ones is down at Totnes, which is a great big Great Western box that you access off the footbridge, like at York actually. But Totnes, there is a fantastic cafe inside that one. One of my absolute favourite. They do really good all-day breakfast. Just lovely, just bloody lovely.
One of the ones...
Will you crack on?
Oh yeah, sorry, you're right.
It's quarter past
already.
Images.
Here's you grinning with many levers.
That's me looking very happy, having pulled that lever. Great. Right. The programme is basically me just going around the country and Europe, pointing at things and going, "This is really interesting. This is really clever." Because sometime about this thing, and an expert coming to correct me and tell me the finer points, the dates that I got wrong. But them showing what they love. So in that box, we meet some of the guys who actually are responsible for working it and maintaining it, and we learn how it works, and that's a real privilege to be able to share sort of that behind the scenes building conservation, because we always talk about trains, right, with the railways, but this is a chance to celebrate some of the infrastructure behind it as well. Absolutely. and the historic side. It's oh gosh,
you're saying the right
stuff.
things to the infrastructure person, Tim. That's why I love you so much. There we are. Trains, everyone loves trains, but there's us infrastructure heads, and everyone talks about train fandom. There's an infrastructure underneath it too, and this is why.
No, Gareth, no, not track though.
Oh.
Everything apart from track. No one likes track.
Right, let's
crack on.
Yeah, let's crack on. Oh,
crack on.
I mean, this thing.
Oh yes. So this is an example. Just every part of this railway network that we sort of crashed around. We found little sort of things from the past that were unexpected that staff have left. So I think the in Shrewsbury box there's a sign that says stuck on a window, "My other car is a Deltic." And someone has obviously pinned this track safety badge from 1989, 1990, and has stuck it to the wall behind the box at Crewe Junction. I just quite liked that. It's just lots of interesting reminders of the past that we all know as railway people, that we kind of have hanging around from our distant past. It's still part of our workplaces. It's just very enjoyable.
I'm aware that I must take care. Yeah, I like that particular. It's actually when I was walking, so I got up and down the East Coast Main Line between York and Newcastle. I think you can see branding of like the last sort of however many train operating companies there've been. Like the toilets in Newcastle still have the pink East Coast branding, and then there's the BR, obviously there's lots of old BR stuff around York, and there's the whole history there. Oh, and of course there's NER stuff and LNER stuff as well. It is nice to just see those little glimpses. And it makes people happy when we nod towards the modern railway. When we nod to it, it does make people happy.
Yeah. I've always said that buildings find it very hard to forget. And so a lot of the structures that we're all familiar on the railway with do have layers of history on them. Of course they do. Whether it's from paint or wallpaper that's being uncovered of different eras, or the liveries, you have different functions. And it's really interesting just to see how they've been repurposed and different operating companies or systems have changed within them. Even the signal box, the interlocking system in there, which we show how it works. I mean, fascinating to me, hopefully others as well. That's not the first interlocking system that's been in there. No. The several layers have been in there with these pulleys and wheels that have been replaced over the years.
I'm going to ask a quick question. I'll go on the next one because it's a nice picture of King's Cross. We've had a quick question, which I think is quite nice. Tim, this is from Richard A.V. Smith. Tim, was anything less interesting or exciting in practice than you were expecting? Like the inside of a historic building turns out to be empty or something like that?
Well, that's a really good question, actually. Well, actually, linked to this picture. So one of the episodes we go up into King's Cross and we do a whole study of King's Cross, which I love. And King's Cross is probably in my top 3 London stations. My second favourite, not quite sure. You can see behind it, platform 0 over there in the background. It wasn't less interesting. It was just a horrible job. The producers got me to clean, help clean the buffers and the track for one episode, because we were looking at how do you maintain a grade 1 listed building in infrastructure today, and how do you do it. And it actually happened to be a day they'd shut the station for a total track possession to rebuild the station through opening tunnels last year. And so I had a early morning where I was being filmed cleaning the track and the buffers, and after half an hour, yeah, okay, fine. Hour, I'm like, I'm done with this. And they're like, it's not clean enough. I'm like, really? Really? And like, clean it some more.
Golly. I mean, there's a reason there are troughs underneath the trains in the platforms there, because that lovely HST in the middle doesn't like to keep hold of the nasties that people drop into the toilet. So, washing them, washing that track.
This is a long-term cough, not a COVID cough. I'm just looking down this list here of buildings are less interesting than I thought they would be. Because I've got my list here, all my buildings I went to, and so I didn't get to go to all of them because I to make the program I had a sort of a mini sabbatical. So I had what? Because I do work full time, and
you have a job,
I do have a real job in writing and editing and marketing stuff. As well as writing books and being a historian, researching and trying to publish stuff and make television programs and and so on, and be a curator at certain times. I'm very, very tired. Looking at this list here. I know. Yes. I didn't get to go to all of them, so I went to about 12 of them out of 15 out of 40, I think. So a lot of them I didn't get to go to, but I did a lot of research and work with them on the research for it and fact checking. But I didn't really like, to be honest, Dartmouth, because
interesting.
Inside Dartmouth Station, which of course is a station that's never seen a train because it's on the wrong side of the River Dart, but it's a station for ticketing purposes, as a technicality. And the reason we went to it is also because it's an interesting story across from Kingswear, but also as a bit of a snub to my father. Because my dad used to work at British Rail Property Board, and he was the man that sold the Dartmouth, or the Kingswear branch to William McAlpine's crew. So I thought, so went to go and see that. Just to go. Yes. I didn't really. Because if you go inside the station building, there's not much of any historic. It's inside. It's nice outside, but nothing really interesting inside. So I'd probably say that's at least interesting for me. Although it's an interesting story of the railway and why it's there. But as a building,
that's
right.
It's a very good answer. There's an urgent question about where your scarf is. Tim's indoors, and normally people don't wear scarves indoors. Although it's an interesting point. Thanks for.
It has been known. When our heater broke.
Right, okay.
In fact, actually, I don't, because we filmed this series out it was last summer, so we filmed it over June, July, and August. I thought, where can I get the scarf in? I've got to wear the scarf at some point. So I actually wore it up Mount Snowdon, thinking it'll be really cold up Mount Snowdon.
Oh, no.
It was really hot up Mount Snowdon, but by this point I'd been wearing it for continuity reasons, and we couldn't take our train up, so So you'll see me wearing this scarf up Snowdon, and we had to get me taking it off at one point to show, because I was baking hot on Mount Snowdon. Brilliant fun.
Oh dear. Right, let's get back to the presentation. We've already segued. It was going to happen, wasn't it? We're postage stamped again.
Yes, so this is taken from the clock tower that we went into up in King's Cross Station. So if you are on King's Cross Station and you go between the two barrels of the station at the London end, you'll see a little door hidden in the back, and that little hidden door leads up a spiral staircase that goes right up to the clock. So it goes to the next image.
Oh yes. Oh, look at that.
Boom. It comes out there.
Absolutely stunning.
It's a long way up. Next.
It is. Next. And there's...
And that's my head in the clock.
Yeah.
Because, of course, it's a four-sided clock. So, or was it three-sided? I can't remember. And it's magnificent. I got a bit tearful because when I was very small, I wanted to be a horologist. I wanted to be a clockmaker when I was tiny. I didn't want to be a railway person at all. And to
that
go
does
into this
explain a lot,
clock,
Tim, actually, that's what you wanted to be when you were older. I think.
What? I just love massive clocks.
Like, just, yeah, fiddly detail, but history. It's I can see where your brain was going on that one. It's good.
My grandparents used to, you'll like this, used to cut out little clocks from Country Life magazine. And I used to go and stay with them most weekends because Mum and Dad used to have sort of dinner parties and so on. So I used to get shunted off to my grandparents. And Grandpa and Granny and I used to sit with their copies of Country Life and The Countryman, cutting out pictures of antiquarian clocks and sticking them on posters. I was a very odd child. I'm quite precocious. So let's go to the next image.
Actually, I'm going to flick back a couple just to very briefly. I love repeated patterns, and I don't know whether you were deliberately taking the shot to pick it up, but there's a little glimpse of light through all of those. I presume are they wrought iron supports? I suppose they might well be. Correct me on that one. Are they look wrought anyway? That little gap of light that you can see shining through. I love that sort of repeated pattern. They're wonderful.
Yes,
and also the detailing.
That was deliberate. Yes, yes.
Hooray! The detailing, like the tiny little. They're wonderful. Anyway, right. Sorry, I digress. Next slide. This gentleman here. Crikey.
That one is. Now, this is a railway that doesn't feature in the programme because, and this chap is Mike, and Mike is director of the Festiniog Railway. But the reason I'm showing you this, which is a model of, I think it's Croatian railways, or it could be Slovakia or Czechoslovakian, I can't remember which. Mike is a very nice chap, and we were staying in this little pub in this tiny village in the back end of Norfolk, and it's beautiful, lovely little village. And we were just tucking into our dinner, having had a very long day filming. I think it was at Wolferton Station, the Royal Station, which is a huge station but been restored as a private home. And there's one of the team came back from the loo or something and said, "There's a poster on the wall about the so and so light railway, and it's in this village, it seems." I was like, "What? I didn't know about this. What?" And so I googled it, and then I was like, "Oh my goodness gracious me! It's actually behind the pub." And so I was like, "I'm just going to briefly just leave you all after dinner," and I as we finished filming, so I snuck off up this little green lane behind the pub, and it crosses over this footpath, this little 7 1/4 inch gauge railway. Oh. And so I then went back and sort of thought, oh, that's interesting. I stuck it on Facebook. I'd seen this little railway line. And then a friend of mine who works at the Festiniog Railway said, "Oh, that's so-and-so's railway. Do you want to go and see it? I'll give them a shout now." So I had a quick chat. And then by overnight, this message then came through. And I had a phone call next morning saying, "Do you want to come and have a look at the railway?" So while the crew were filming in the village, because we were filming some architectural details about this local stone that they used to build some local stations, they were like, "Well, Tim, you're not required for another, hour and a half. So either have a long cooked breakfast or go for a long walk." So I went up there, and Mike gave me a ride around his back garden of about 1 kilometre of train track. Just me and Mike whizzing around on this diesel around his grounds, and that was very delightful. I've got a few friends who are very lucky enough to have railways like this. They're probably a good 100 or so private railways like this in Britain. And it was a privilege to go and visit them, because some of them are extraordinary, and this one I hadn't been to or I hadn't even heard of. Is delight. There's some very, very fun private railways in this country. Sometimes you can't share pictures of them because they're in interesting places.
What's the gauge at which point it starts needing to be treated a bit more carefully? What's the
From memory, it's 15-inch gauge, I think. 15. That's when you have to start obeying various safety regulations and so on. But below that, anything's pretty much fair game, which is why the 12 1/4 inch gauge is so popular popular in Britain in private railways because you can do what the hell you want unless it crosses a public highway. But yeah, we had lots of fun because Mike opens his railway a couple of times a year for a local fete, and had a nice morning. Very very decent fellow, that one. But one day I'd like to do a television programme about these private railways because say that there are a lot of them, and some of them are in the grounds of quite remarkable houses in lovely gardens. Others in back gardens, the suburban houses, like friends of my grandfather used to have them had them in back gardens. They used to race around at weekends in northwest London. If a university friend of mine, Alex, had one. Still has got one in his back garden, although he's grown up obviously as well, lives in America now. And we used to come back to university and near just north of Slough, and we used to go drinking, lots of us, to have parties at the house, and then hungover, the thing the next morning was we just all go down to the woods and drive the miniature trains around the woods as our hangover with barbecued bacon sandwiches. Lots of fun. Trains are for having fun.
Trains are for having
as you
fun.
can tell.
They absolutely are.
Well,
wait,
right, next image.
Show us what's happening. What did you just point behind you, Tim? Because it's a lovely Easter egg and it's very beautiful. What is that thing that's behind you? And I don't mean the wine necessarily.
Oh, that's a shame. So I got this out because people often like these. It's one of two I've got. There's one just out. There's one also. Another one there. They are a couple of ex-British Rail marketing devices they used to have in their ticket ticket agencies, I suppose, and there's some travel advice centres, and they used to have signs on them that used to sort of have tickets or British Rail travel on them, or stuff, and they were there as big wooden models, and they were about 3 foot long. One's in BR original livery and one's in Swallow livery.
Just
and because I do like the HSTs, and they're terrific because I like the garden railways I like because I've got, as you know, a ride-in HST which is about 70 foot long. But I can't have it in London. I'm not allowed it. It doesn't fit on the balcony. So
there are rules about it.
These are here to keep me
Yeah.
amused instead.
Right. We do have some questions which I'll ask, but we're going to press on, I think.
Well, show us some questions.
Yeah, go for it. Okay, we've had a question, a kind of a joint question from David Shearers of Rail Engineer and various other publications.
Oh,
and,
hello.
Yes, where's the other one? Oh, and Ailey as well, actually. Ailey M. Both are asking about Glasgow Queen Street Station. So there's some interesting chat about the mixture of old and new, and what you. So firstly, it was what you think of the new Queen Street Station frontage. I mean, it's not finished yet; it's still work in progress, but you can basically see what it looks like now, I think.
I think it's very now. I sort of wish they'd kept it just as an open glass thing, but I do understand the pressures of why they haven't. And I think we've got to remember, I suppose, we're old and new all the time, that we don't actually live in a museum, although we like to think we do. It's very easy to slip into that whole, we must save everything and must preserve it as it was and so on. But the railway's primary responsibility is to take people around safely and efficiently. It isn't there to preserve stuff, although we're very lucky in this country that we have a very, very heritage aware set of bodies like Network Rail and so on, and Historic England who help manage the estate. Very lucky to have them, but I don't think you should save everything, and I'm always up for some experimentation with new stuff. So It's not necessarily my taste, it's right, but there are some lovely things at Queen Street that I do really like. So there's some details that I've seen, some of the gates down below that are really interesting. It's kind of these silhouetted wrought iron gates I've seen down at the bottom of the station. They're really very attractive. That's really very smart. So yeah, but generally I'm very pro that station redevelopment.
Do you like the King's Cross redevelopment? Which is it's getting on a bit now. You like the extra bit on King's Cross?
I do. And again, there's obviously a balance you make between monetizing your space with putting in mezzanines and shops and so on, but also creating spaces that people want to spend time in before their train goes, because and also giving people the choice they want, because people generally do like to have choice of retailer. And yes, if I was being purist about it, I'd rather they took all the restaurants out of Euston and stripped back that mezzanine to give it a much bigger, lovely hollow space like it should have been, and indeed it first was. But it's not practical, because that isn't what the customers generally want. No, they have done clever things at Euston, like they've taken out those little kiosks, until they were last year. Things paper face, and there was like socks or ties, etc. or something. And they've been taken out. They've even taken out Boots in the corner. You see?
It's gone. Yeah,
they've taken out. Yeah, and they've kind of just driven a walkway through it to give better access, which is brilliant. And that's just about how do you manage that balance of space needs and passenger needs versus the needs of the consumer trying to have a good journey. It's very interesting.
I thought Rotterdam Central was a really good example of that. Like there is no way they could retain a little bit, even if enough, without it just looking like they'd forgotten a bit. There was no way they could retain any of the original or the rebuilt structure of Central. Oh no, it was original because it was a new station, wasn't it, in the 50s? But the little nods. Those little nods are actually really nice. I like that, and there are lots of places in the UK where I think we'd benefit from nods rather than wholesale retention. And a few of our stations are very constrained, that we perhaps are blighted a little bit by our rose-tinted spectacles, and it can cause headaches.
Yeah, there's things to be said. How can you retain things that are very important, and you should. So that's why listing exists, right? Because they are important things. Now, listing something doesn't give it immunity. It just means it has to be considered better. And it means that more people have to be consulted for changes to it. But I mean, it has been noted, that Edinburgh Waverley Station, for example, the existence of that waiting room in the middle of it, which I like very much.
But it's in the way.
It is very much in the way of the trains. So how do you make a decision to move that, demolish it?
Yeah, it's a nightmare, and they've got a master plan, but they've got a consultation out for this master plan. But I mean, where do you start? It's such a contentious and understandably contentious issue. Ideally, Waverley would just all be through platforms. You'd get rid of all of the because anyway, yeah. Right, we digress, as always we do. But some good questions. Keep them coming through. I might be missing them. If I've missed them, chuck them again. But I think we picked up a few questions there. Good stuff. Let's crack on.
This is loads of fun. Thank you everyone for joining. This is really nice.
Yeah, I'm having a great time. We've got 22 minutes until 8 p.m. Next picture, and we're getting into some really good stuff now. I went full Blade Runner and did a bit of enhancement on this just to bring it out a little bit.
Excellent. Mine was a bad picture because it doesn't poke off very well. So this is the Ribblehead Viaduct as you've never seen it before. Ribblehead Viaduct.
Yeah, such a good Easter egg. That's brilliant.
And I imagine very few people have ever seen this. This is actually a model of Ribblehead that British Rail had commissioned back in late 70s, early 80s, must be late 70s, when they were considering closing the line. They looked at alternatives of what they could put in its place. Rather than closing the line, if they were to build a brand new viaduct. So talking of retention and so on, this is a nice segue. They looked at different viaduct designs, and so they built this little sort of rather than just doing designs, they built this model in this big television case, It's about, gosh, 6 foot
Oh,
long.
really? It's that big?
It's huge. Yeah, it's huge. Maybe, yeah, about 6 foot long, and it's in Settle Museum, in the town museum, but up in a corner of a room on like the second floor in the corner. I was like, what is this? this is unbuilt architecture. And again, we didn't get time to put it in the television program. Because again, we were just so pushed for time. We're looking at actual stuff. So I want to show you this because people haven't seen this one. I might tweet these out when we do the actual episode because it's quite interesting. Here's the next slide. Yeah. I think you can see other versions of it as well.
Yes, and this so this one in the foreground. Oh, yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah, it's super. I love this.
Yeah, so there are 6 different models, and they slide in and out of the landscape. These like sort of 4 foot long, 5 foot long, sort of like cassettes, and you kind of pull them out from the end. And then you slide in a different model, so you can see how each one sits in the landscape.
So it slots in.
I just really enjoyed that.
Because you can see the lines, and it just sort of slots neatly in. That's brilliant. That really is brilliant.
If you are ever in that part of Yorkshire, I genuinely think you should go and hunt out Settle Museum, and find this room, which is all on the Settle Railway, and how it was built and why it was built. And in the corner is this wonderful thing that was basically kept in a British Rail hut, I think, for some time. And then one of the staff saved it, and it's there now today, looking slightly worse for wear. But I was very pleased to have found this little artifact, a very unusual architectural model.
They're wonderful.
So again, obviously, I love models, as you know. And this was a rather special one that isn't really known.
It's brilliant. I can say engineering things now. I can actually provide some insight that I've been useless at up until this point in tonight's Rail Natter. So, firstly, these are brilliant, and it'd be and actually, much as Ribblehead is an iconic structure, these would still look great up there. They'd still be a feature. However, thankfully, civil engineering and structural engineering has progressed, and our understanding of masonry structures has progressed sufficiently that there's a decent chance that we would not need to renew Ribblehead to redouble it anymore. We've got all sorts of clever things, and we've far better. Bill Harvey and his associates, literally and figuratively,
he's a very clever man.
Yes, have that much better understanding, and some of the engineering consultancies and Network Rail themselves have a better understanding of masonry structures that we can now probably enhance Ribblehead to the point where you could double track it without having to recon it completely, as in here. So when, as I hope it does, Ribblehead gets redoubled, sadly we won't see these things. We probably will retain the existing structure, but yeah, these are brilliant. This one in the front is quite Swiss, isn't it? In fact, I think there are Swiss viaducts that have that. Maybe one of the features in the show.
I pulled those out from this, out from all the cobwebs that I found, and they really were in the back of Beyond. So you can't get these out normally, but I did pull them out from the archives. Right, on to the next one.
On to the next one. It's you grinning again. My favourites.
Oh, so this is the Festiniog Railway. This is at Boston Lodge Works. That is the old locomotive shed, and I suppose we went to go and look. That's this coming Tuesday, Festiniog Railway.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
One of my favourite places in the world is the FR, and I've been up and that line literally 100 times. I'm sure at least many times in recent years, because I've got friends who live not a million miles away, so we all like to use it. And one of my favourite trips is on the FR is to try and do in the summer season is to go Portmaddock to Blaenau to Portmaddock to Carnarvon, and then back. You can just do it some days.
Just about, in the summer.
You can just do it. But in the past, normally we do it. You do it Portmaddock to Blaenau on the first train, Blaenau to Portmaddock to Carnarvon, and then you get a taxi back. And because it's North Wales, the taxi back is like 25 quid.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
And it's brilliant. That's not London prices. So yeah, this is the original loco shed for the Festiniog Railway. And we're going to have a look inside it and the construction of it. Again, this is basic sort of local architecture, but you've got to remember that this stuff at Boston Lodge is being built to maintain locomotives over 3 separate centuries. This was built in what, the 1860s. For these early George England locomotives, and got extended to take in more. We went into that one, and I just liked that, because I was so pleased to actually be allowed to go into these buildings and take the cameras in there, look at details of them, because normally they're shut to the public.
Yeah. And
this is just a nice way to go and show, here are some really early narrow gauge railway structures for early industrial railways. Right, next.
Those narrow gauge railways. So with my family living in Wales, and half the family are Welsh anyway, I love Welsh narrow gauge railways. And there's just, you never know everything about them. In fact, you only find out that you don't know more every time you go and find a new detail. It's like, oh, there's a whole stream and a load of history that I had not a clue about that I now need to go and try and understand. I just love them, absolutely love them. That's a Hunslet, isn't it? So it's a Leeds. That's a Leeds diesel, I presume.
It is a Leeds diesel. And I'm still trying to find an excuse to do some sort of television thing where they let me go on the gravity train. I haven't yet found that excuse. I'm still trying to work on program ideas that might let me do it.
Right, next one. Sorry, I digress again. Right. Oh, it's you standing atop a thing with Wales.
What a surprise!
Behind you, yeah.
So this is the remains of a bridge up the FR going towards Blaenau, and this is just beyond Theacht, which is the spiral section. So this is the old disused section of the line, which was basically covered up by the CEGB, the Central Electricity Generating Board's brand new power station and reservoir for pumped storage.
Yes, they put back in the 70s. Of water on it, didn't they?
Yeah, so this route, as many people know watching this, they had to abandon this route. But what I love about this story, and we talk about this coming Tuesday, is how the volunteers were kind of like, we are not going to let this, not taking this line down. We're going to build this railway around the lake. And hundreds of men and women from all over Britain and beyond came to construct. They became known as the deviationists.
Yes,
to build the deviation.
Yeah.
And again, throughout this series, it's not just architecture; it's also civil engineering on a grand scale. But we couldn't really call it the architecture and civil engineering the railways built. I mean, it's long enough already, so it's called the architecture the railways built. But this is a bridge that an overbridge over the railway, over the cutting, that is now just fallen down in recent years.
It's got there's some nice P-way, some rogue P-way in use there. Those look awfully like bolt hole rails, bullhead rails stuck in, or maybe flat bottoms actually, stuck in the ground. Not doing much use anymore, but yeah, nice bit of track. And obviously you're so pleased because you're in proximity to those lovely lengths of rail. That's why you're so pleased.
Well, yeah, and also the fact that because just basically behind the camera is where the new track goes, but several feet above this, or meters above this, and I've seen that bridge 100 times going up that road, that route, and I was like, now I'm here actually filming it for a television program. It was just it just felt rather special.
And it's Wales looking at its absolute finest. Like, Wales is very, very green. I don't think people realise, people who haven't been to Wales don't realise how green, particularly mid Wales, particularly this bit, the bit between like Aberystwyth and Caernarfon, that whole bit is so green. It's like one of my favourite views is when you come up from Cross Foxes and then you go up over the wibbly wobbly bit of road on your way down towards, you've just been at Dolgellau and you're heading towards Machynlleth and sort of Corris, but before you whiz off up the hill to Corris, there's this view down towards down Talyllyn. That view with with Talyllyn, and then that the Talyllyn railway is weaving along on the southern side of the valley. That view for me is one of my absolute favourite views in the UK. I just love it. It's wonderful, with Cadair Idris sat above looking. But anyway, that's another little railway that you need to find an excuse to film again.
Again, I wanted to find an excuse to go to so many places, and so we had a long list of well over 400. And we had to get it down to what? About 30, I think it's 32 locations, but 45 buildings or thereabouts.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get away with doing a second narrow gauge railway in Wales for the series.
That's the spin-off. That's the spin-off. It's the next one, right?
Well,
right.
who knows? Who knows? Gareth? Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Right, buffet service available. With is that a fairly, a little silhouette of a fairly in the picture as well?
Yes. So that's we wrapped for the day, and we got the train back down from theatre, having had a tour from one of the original deviationists who came along for the day. We walked along it, and then he said, then we got the train back. And it was, and the staff were like, "Do you want to help serve?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I ended up doing a bit of serving on the train, which was quite good fun. As a volunteer.
Yeah.
Great.
Right, so I'm just noticing how high tech the rolling stock is on the FR. It's a very modern railway.
Right? So it is. Apart from a few bits of heritage stock, you remember that these are tourist railways that use steam because that's what attracts the passengers. They do have obviously a very, very strong heritage ethos, but they are businesses.
Very successful ones.
But yeah, they are preserved railways, and they're preserving a thing of the past, and I love that. And they still have some of the same engines that were doing the same thing since 1863, since Prince and Palmerston first arrived. But it's very important, and they maintain the skills. But you've got to have stuff that does work and that the passengers of today like. So on the Welsh Highland Railway, for example, you've got to have corridor connections, as you do on these ones, with loos on board. And there's the penultimate carriage on all Welsh Highland trains is the kitchen car, because they get to go and serve hot food and so on the train as you go, because it's quite a long journey. It's brilliant. It's just, what a day out. And that is, if you haven't done the Festiniog or the Welsh Highlands, you're missing out. You really are. It's a glorious, glorious trip. Right, next one.
Yes, next one. Oh, I know this gentleman.
It's Justin on Eurostar. I included that because this was a complete surprise. This is us in the Eurostar buffet, in the buffet car. We just finished filming in Rotterdam, and as you can tell, because I'm wearing my waistcoat from filming in Rotterdam that afternoon, and it was a very long day filming in Rotterdam, and I did 2 days filming in Rotterdam, and the crew had just then gone north, I think, to Amsterdam to do their filming. I had to come back to the UK to then do filming the next day in, I think it was King's Cross at that time, because basically I did 2 blocks of 2 weeks. So basically for all of this, I was going in trains and cars and taxis around the UK to meet up the 2 different film and in Europe to meet the different film crews, and it's just bonkers. And people say, "Oh, is it glamorous?" It really is not glamorous, because you're living out of a backpack for 2 weeks, living in digs in budget hotel rooms, and you're getting in each night, looking at the notes for the next day, writing a bit of a script, and then kind of getting up in the morning, going, right, who are we doing today? Where am I going? Where are we? Is this Paris? Where are we? I don't know anymore. And then kind of talking about shots and plans, which have always been knocked out because the weather's turned, or a contributor can't turn up, or something's happened. But it's logistical. It's brilliant. It is not glamorous, but it's so much fun doing this stuff. But so this is an example where we met Justin just because I was on the train, and I was walking up the platform at Rotterdam. Is it Rotterdam? No, I got a train back. I got a train back to Brussels because they didn't have a direct train at that point. I got a train back to Brussels. I think I had a bit of train spotting I did in Brussels, which was lots of fun for about an hour. And I was walking up the platform. This voice went, "Oh, look who it is." I was like, uh-oh, what have I done now? It's Justin. So I got ushered onto the train, and yes, I had a very nice trip, and had a long chat in the buffet car. He changed the colour of the lights for me in the buffet car, which they can change apparently. It was lots of fun.
That's exciting.
And they got all chin-wag about railways and Eurostar, and it was just a really nice. I was just showing you this one because it's just a nice example of where if you work on the railway or with the railways. It's just so nice. You always end up bumping into people that you know. and it is one big railway family. And that's what I've, having worked now in a rail-rated company for the past 3 years, and also doing a lot of media work with the different operating companies and so on. You get to meet so many interesting, clever, wonderful, fun people, and you always bump into them around the network.
You do.
And it every time you meet someone you know, it's just so much fun. I met Ian. I met at the Lancashire BTP police.
Yes,
I met in December, just pretty randomly, on Lancaster station platform, and gave me a tour of the station, because they know that you're interested, and that's a kind of...
It really is a family, isn't it? It does, the railway family, people say it isn't trite, it really is a thing. You feel, there's a warmth you feel, particularly in York. Like, I feel it every time I go to York, and there'll be some lovely LNER staff member who smiles and waves, and every now and then might recognise me, because I've done, we've both done LNER bits and pieces, and they tell me off, they tell me that my restraining order is active still, and they send me away. It's lovely, it's so warm, and
your ankle alarm goes off again.
That's it, yeah, I get electrocuted, and then they just sort of take my limp body and just dump me outside the front. Yeah, that's something like that. Again. Right.
That's why this program came about, because the program couldn't have happened if it wasn't for all these people that we've met over the past few years, who were connected to, and we know and have the stories. So all these people we called on to say, can you help us with this? Can you try doing this? And they went, yeah, of course. Here's our story. And so this program, The Architects of Railways Built, is very much a television program that the railway family has made, whether it's behind the scenes or on camera. The railway people and people who like the railway a lot have all contributed hugely, and whether they are chairman of certain rail organisations, or whether they are everyday folk like me working on the back end of things, they've really helped make this programme, and I hope it reflects their passions as well. Yeah, next one.
It does. Well, one episode in, it certainly did. All right, I combined two into one to speed us up. These two, right.
Jubilee Line.
Yes.
This is the last episode of the programme, and this is two examples of Jubilee architecture. Again, just two remarkable structures. There's Southwark there, and then Westminster. Our guide for this is an incredible person. She's called Anne Gavahan. And Anne is... I was fanboy Anne, because she's a brilliant communicator and knows her stuff. She works at TfL, and I think it's one of my, shows is so enthusiastic and knowledgeable about the architecture, and takes us around on the final episode of this series in June. And shows some of the details that you might have previously missed, which is what I like about this. And it's, again, it's a privilege to have someone like Anne give their knowledge so freely and share it so kindly. So yeah,
the Jubilee Line. I mean, Westminster Station is one of my favourite stations in terms of all railways, light, heavy, rapid transit, whatever. Westminster is one of my favourites. And Southwark, every time I go to Southwark, I think, oh, Southwark is stunning. These two are just stunning examples of cathedrals of transport, of moving people around. The Jubilee Line extension is every station is stunning. It's a wonderful example of what railways can be. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
love it.
Absolutely, and I live along Jubilee Line, as you well know, and so I not recently, obviously, but I do travel it an awful lot, going east and west, whether it's to the West End or going up towards Marylebone and so on, or going out east towards pubs and so on that I know out east. But yeah, just super architecture to get off. I have been known to stop off in the evenings on Saturdays or Sundays, it's a bit quieter, and do pictures like these that I took just because I know it's quieter on a Sunday night. So I have been known to go to get just a little wander down there to London Bridge Station late at night and take pictures of the station, sort of like 12:30 on a Sunday, or take a quick train, the last train to down to Canary Wharf to take pictures and so on. But yeah, lovely stuff.
Empty Underground, that's your hashtag, isn't it? Is that right? Is it empty?
It is. Yes.
Yeah, they're very good. Oh yeah, we've got behind the scenes photos of you doing Empty Undergrounds. That's right. Anyway, right, let's press on. It's you pointing at a thing again. Here we go.
There are lots of pictures of me pointing at things. We went to Hitachi factory because I wanted to know. I wanted to show what, I suppose, we looked at depots, things. I wanted to show how railway architecture, or I suppose a railway building, copes with this kind of high-tech environment. How do you build something that is effectively an aerospace technology? Because you can't do it in a grimy shed like with Festiniog, with greasy spanners and so on. And so we went to this building with photovoltaic cells on the roof, and the traverser out the back. And I've been to Hitachi Newton Aycliffe Depot. I can't remember now 4 times.
Oh, really?
I've looked around it. For different. I've done projects for Great Western. And for NRM and for this, so I've had the privilege of going to this 3 times. But each time it's a delight because the team there is so much fun. They really are a lot of fun, and it's a fascinating assembly line. And we talk about how trains progress through this assembly line, and how they are assembled, sort of unit by unit. In this great big space, and we watch how it's done, and they ridiculously let me loose on doing some work on a Hitachi 800.
This is where you added to your collection of restraining orders on railway property. This is where one of your various ankle bracelets with a big digital beepy thing on it. This is one of the sites, right?
Oh, they roll their eyes and go, "Oh, you again." At most railway stations, actually. Yeah, cool.
So,
right,
let's do the next one. So, as a brief interjection, I'm pleased to say that I worked on this depot. Well, not depot, sorry, this factory, and I'm responsible for a couple of bits here and there. For example, the buffer
It's not very good, is
down,
it?
No, it's dreadful, yeah. The buffer stops down on the end of their little short test track were one of my first things I did in my new company I joined, which was quite interesting, and done a couple of bits. So it's always nice to see something that's being worked on and used and creating a huge fleet of trains running around the country had an input into it. It's fun.
It's a very interesting building, and the stuff that happens within it is very interesting. And this is just the full size traverser that you see at the back of the building, and I took some stop frame animation of it. So I'll publish that probably on the night of the program going out, that one, and that's on the. So hang on a second, I've got my sheet here, all my little notes. As you can imagine, I have got a lot of notes going.
Yeah.
Where are we? Talk about yourself. 23rd of June is Hitachi's depot.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, a vehicle assembly.
Yeah, they don't like saying factory or plant. It's like parts assembly system location. Yeah.
It was a joy to be there. Yes, I'll post that then. But yeah, so that's the Traverser, which you can see, and it's quite interesting to watch some of these big sort of these different cars being transported around. Yeah. I'm very aware that we're going to go over time.
We've already run out of time. Let's skip to the next picture, quick.
Well, I don't want to occupy people's time because it's very generous, and I'm honestly I'm so surprised that I'm privileged to be able to.
Well, we've got
talk.
155 people sitting watching just now, which is very nice. Hello all of you. Welcome to RailNatter if you're joining for the first time. It's not always this professional. Oh, is this professional? Oh gosh. Right. This we all know what. Well, many of us know what this is. It's an Azuma.
It's at Azuma.
It's at Azuma with it's very fetching. Lots of people are saying, "Don't stop, please keep going" in the chat, Tim.
Well, I could go on. I probably will. I never one known to use 2 words when I could use 400. This is one of the LNR ones, sort of before it's ever left the factory, and I put this in just because, again, we got a chance to go and look inside these vehicles with all of the plastic on them still.
Yeah.
We have a mutual friend who might well be watching. I think
he appeared. He might be on the. Yeah, I think he might be.
Who is responsible for the livery of this?
What a livery it is!
And we all know why it's designed like that. So it looks like a Class A4 vehicle. No. He's a very clever man, and I think it's very amusing he did that. And I'm very proud that he got that little Easter egg into that East Coast design. But yeah, it was quite fun. If I took that, I think for him and texted him, went, "I've got one of your new trains. I've seen it in flesh."
He's going to be joining us for a future Rail Natter, I think. I need to convince. He's waving. He's here. He's joining us for a future Rail Natter to talk about things, liveries,
good,
trains.
Good.
Anyway,
I'm very pleased. It was quite exciting because to go to this building and then see a friend's work, who's obviously he designed this with lots of care and spent a lot of time on it, and then to go and see it before it had actually gone out of the shed and see it sort of pristine in works condition. It was a bit of a moment. It's like, oh, my friends made this. Yeah. Is this all right? Yeah, it was a very nice thing to see. It's a very interesting building to be in as well. And again, just we were told don't move that point from that point because because and so I went a little bit of a nose down the end, see what else I could find. But yeah, it was a delight. Hitachi is ever a very thoughtful company when it comes to asking permissions of things. So they gave us full permission to go and look around the building. Great, again, a lovely episode, and I hope it comes across. We met some people there who told us how the production line works, and to hear how that stuff is just fascinating.
I mean, they're enormous. They're like space shuttles. They're enormously complicated machines. They're just incredible. Yes. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, there is. It never got aired, sadly, because of logistics and things. But when I did some stuff with Great Western a couple of years ago, they launched their IET, and we were on that trip, that first IET from Bristol to Paddington. And there's some problems aboard. We were trying to do some live broadcasts. We actually did some filming, and one of the things we were going to do, and so do you remember the 125 advert from many years ago, which is the police 125?
Yeah, the police 37.
The police class 37.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, there's a woman in a swimsuit, and she's standing on the 125, and she's sort of gesticulating and saying, "Get to order one of these from your local 125 dealer now." And we actually filmed a version of me hanging out of the IET door, not in a swimsuit, I hasten to add. So doing this, going, "Order one from your local Hitachi IET dealer now." And we never actually got to air that. I might try and see if I can find a picture. We took some stills as well.
Yeah, you've got to have like a bit of special. That'll be on the DVD. The special features will be you beckoning.
Well, it's interesting that there's a lot of footage that we took at Old Oak Common that has never yet seen the light of day, and I think we're still looking to work out a way. And indeed, that last HST day we did on Great Western. And we often, we keep, again, it's just a matter of time, right, and priorities of things to do. A bit like the fact that you and I and Dr. David Turner have filmed a not insignificant amount of video content that's currently sitting on my hard drive that we need to publish as quite fun videos of us doing the history of York and getting progressively more hammered in York.
And interrupted by a series of increasingly interesting locomotives and rolling stock as well. We kept getting interrupted by blinking flying Scotsmen as we were trying to get, just so inconsiderate.
The lovely moment. I love that moment where you, me, and David are happy chatting away about railway history and so on, and the whys and wherefore of York Station, and suddenly someone goes like,
Yeah, papers fly in the air a bit.
and Flying Scotsman sort of photo bombs us. That was quite amusing.
Yeah, just disgraceful. Right. I'm going to
okay.
right. So if we go back to here, see, very slickly, I presented the final of the slides you presented to us, which is actually very usefully for people, a chance for them to see what lies ahead for the rest of the show.
It's almost like I thought about this. So I just included this as a quick slide, just because, oh crikey, I can't actually see that. Just because people keep asking me, which is really gratifying. What's on and when? There's a couple of things. First of all, if you go to Ian Visit's website, Ian has actually published this list as well on his website, so you can see it on Ian Visit's website, which is great. And various listings, magazines, Radio Times, I think, publish it as well. It's quite nice. Good, yeah. But I just stuck this up just to kind of just talk about the stuff that we went to, like, and show the breadth of things, because we could have done a basic program at Railway History that was just, just go and look at a hotel, an engine shed, a station, but we went and tried to find interesting stories that are often really unusual. So some of those are actually abroad as well. And again, just because of logistics and time, we only got to do Europe. I mean, if you think about really, there are 2,763 stations open now in the UK, plus a lot more that are shut, plus all the ones across Europe. That's just the stations. That's not hotels, signal boxes, and so on. I mean, there are literally hundreds of great stories we could tell about the architecture the railways built, but these are the ones that we managed to line up to fit in those 2 weeks for me filming, and then 2 weeks for me that next bit, and then 4 weeks of filming without me, and then me doing voiceovers for days. Well, actually nights. Lots. I used to go after work to go and do my voiceovers, and then record an episode after work, and yeah, I mean, just a fascinating process of how voiceovers work, and training your voice for voiceovers, and spending time getting in the right mindset, and then timing us. It's being directed to do voiceovers is a fascinating experience. So this coming weekend, or this week rather, we've got the Landmark Hotel, which is the old British Rail headquarters, 222 Marylebone Road, as everyone knows it, where my dad previously worked briefly as well. We've got the Festiniog Railway and all the architecture up and down that. And then we've got the brilliant Ian de Boer, who's an adjunct, is a historian in the Netherlands. I mean, he takes us to this incredible waiting room in Amsterdam Centraal. So that's this coming Tuesday. And normally it's all locked up and secret, but we've got access to this royal waiting room, which is very rare and just insane interior. At the Landmark Hotel, we go up into the roof to look for the bike track that used to be up there, and then we go and we get shown a secret tunnel as well, which they only found like a week before we started to film.
Oh, really?
So we were the first people down there for a very long time. Yeah. So people who like underground secret spaces, this is quite interesting. Then the next week, Tuesday the 12th of May, is King's Cross Station. We go to the funicular railway, the Clifton Rocks Railway, which is underneath the Clifton Suspension Bridge in Bristol. The Gulch Viaduct we go on top of and inside in Germany, and then down to Dartmouth as well. Yeah.
I mean, there is a picture there. Of course, you have to go there. It's absolutely stunning, isn't it? It's there.
The next week it's Ribblehead Viaduct, Settle the Carlisle line, and just looking at the Derby Gothic style of Settle the Carlisle line is really. And then we go meet this a friend of mine, Mark and Pat, his wife, own the old Settle water tower, and they've converted it into a house.
Yeah,
and they've converted the water tower and the water tank on top into an observation deck. It's very grand design. It's great. And Mark shows us around that building and how he's repurposed it, and that's just lovely. And I go and learn how to not build door frames and woodwork. Oh, we go to Surbiton in southwest London. We go to the Art Deco station.
Love it. Yeah,
It's
that's
cracking.
stunner. Yeah.
We go and look at York, and there's a couple of friends of ours who Emma and indeed Andrew from NRM show us around that.
Yeah.
And the Hungerberg Barn in Innsbruck, which is another funicular.
Mm.
The architects of that. And then I'm not going to go throughout this, it'll take us forever, but the next episode we go and meet my parents in possibly the most ill-advised sequence of my career. I meet my parents on television, which actually is nice, because we go to my dad's first childhood home, which a little house in Metroland. In Ickenham in northwest London, and we kind of go and learn about how Metroland grew up around the Metropolitan Railway and various other buildings around Metroland. Great Malvern in the West Midlands, which is, of course, is a fabulous detail station, and the Worm we go down as well.
Oh yeah, of course, the funny little connection. Yeah.
Oh God, yes. I just realised there are 202 people watching this.
There are, yeah, 204. It's going up. Crikey, 207.
I just want to say thank you very much indeed if you are watching this. I'm genuinely very. I'm humbled by the fact that people want to know about this stuff and the stuff that we find interesting. So, thank you for joining us, and also thank you for all the people that tuned in last night, because I can't say exact numbers, but it was a surprisingly large number of people that tuned into that programme. And the feedback today on Twitter, I actually had to stop looking to it because it was very kind feedback, and the team has all read all that feedback just soon, because it isn't just me. I want to be quite clear about this. Although I present it, and I went to the channel. Well, I didn't know the channel. I went to the producers with this idea of a program some time ago. I am but one person in a very, very talented team of wonderful, interesting people who've made this program. Behind the camera are a couple of director producers and editors, several producers and voiceovers and just researchers, all sorts of wonderful people that made it happen. Yes, at Brown Bob Productions.
We watched it because we loved it, Tim. It was just terrific. You talk about the Railway Family, but the program we've seen one episode, and already we've got a flavour that you've created a program that really reflects that energy, that warmth of the Railway Family. The idea of people wanting to share. Actually, come and have a look at this little story and share that, and the program with one episode, we already get that feeling. That's why so many people have enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to 9 more episodes, and then another 10 series 2. And so on. It brought a lot of people joy, and we've had 1 episode only so far. I mean, 9 more to go. I can't wait.
I mean, people might go by episode like 6. That'd be like going, really? Another station?
No, people will be emailing you their lists of things they think you should go and see. I've already written down some while we've been doing this.
Well, for whatever reason it might be, I would very much like if people think there are interesting stories behind structures, that there are interesting tales to tell. Not just it's a beautiful building, because there are lots of beautiful buildings. If there are interesting stories about why things were created that you think are interesting, please do just drop me a tweet or an email. You can find my email address on if you click onto my site from my profile, you can do that. I genuinely would be interested in other locations. We obviously have a long list of things we haven't yet done that we might want to, if we ever got the chance to do that. But I would very much welcome anyone's suggestions of interesting stories, genuinely. So please do. I won't go on too much longer because it is 8:20.
It is. We've run on. People don't mind, but they have. Shall we? Let's go back to the presentation.
I'm so sorry.
No, not
I'm
at
so
all.
Sorry.
Everyone's very happy. They're loving it. Oh crikey! people are asking about all sorts of things about the second series. Second series questions we'll save until we get Tim on late at the end of the series.
Just so we're quite clear about this, there is no second series.
Yes.
There is no second series.
I said second series Quaxon. It's not. Series 1 is still on. Let's see that finish first.
But I would like to have other people's suggestions places to go or look at if we were to do a different sort of project with those sort of things. Unrelated to this program. So I'm again, as a historian, I am fascinated endlessly by the opportunity of stories to delve further into that we can start off with, and then find out interesting stories that we might be able to correct or to back up or to explain in different formats. Sounds quite cryptic, I know, but we're in a unique position of being able to have research and interesting people. And can you hear that dog?
They've sent the dogs out, Tim. We're 20 minutes late, and they've sent the dogs first.
Honestly. Very quickly, other things coming up as well. Just St Pancras, Castle Howard Station, the Stoos funicular railway, the Glacier Express route, all those viaducts on Glacier Express route. Seven Bridge Junction, we've got 55 Broadway in London, the old TfL headquarters. Mount Snowdon, the big new station and visitor centre on top.
Oh, yes.
Strasbourg Station, which is in this big sort of bubble of glass to enclose it. Wolferton Royal Station in Norfolk, Helsinki Station, Barmouth Bridge in Wales, the Stockton and Darlington Railway. We've got loads of things up and down that. Stockholm Metro. Chapel Viaduct in Essex, this massive brick viaduct with quite small bricks. Hitachi Factory, the entirety of Swindon Newtown.
The whole thing. Yeah, the whole thing.
Pretty much. It was a long 2 days, that one. 3 days spent in Swindon. The Jubilee Line, because that was built, the railway works, of course, to accommodate all the workers. Jubilee Line Extension and Milan Station as well. So there's what about? There are at least 40 buildings, if not 50 or so. We talk about.
It's packed in. We've had John Walton talking with interesting stories. I'm just going to mention this one because it says cheese in it. John Walton says that you should go down to his neck of the woods in France, where they have a railway tunnel of cheese, disused local railway tunnel now used for maturing le fromage.
Now, I have heard of this, and I was down in the south of France just before lockdown, the week before, 2 weeks beforehand. I was filming another thing for Channel 5, which is on telly fairly soon. And I did what's the line that goes up from Nîmes? Anyway, I did a day and a bit on that, 2 days on that. Surprisingly, I was supposed to be there for 1 day, but we ended up, as ever, talking too much, and we found more interesting things. Spent more time.
I can't imagine that ever happening. No.
Yeah. I did. What was it? Impossible Railway. Impossible. Secret Railways.
Secret Railways. Yes.
On Channel 5. No, yesterday. That was 2 years ago. And they said, "Oh, can you come out to the Hearts Mountain Railway, because you know about narrow gauge railways and you understand the technology behind them and why and so on, and the history behind it." I was like, "Yeah, great." So I went out there, and they went, "Well, none of us actually speak German, very good German, and I speak a bit of German, not very much." And I interviewed. In the end, I did my bit on the Hearts Mountain Railway as sort of a contributor. And the next day, I ended up spending an extra day. So they changed my flights and so on, and got me another night in a hotel, just because they were like, "We need you here to ask more questions and take us around the works." So I spent a very, very happy. I called up work, my full-time work, and said, I came for the weekend to Germany. Well, I'm actually going to stay another day, come playing trains. And it being a rail-rated company, they went, "Of course you can. Have fun." So I checked into the hotel for another night, and I spent a very happy day in Wernigerode locomotive works, interviewing some of the staff. But I didn't appear on that bit because I was just asking questions in German, going, "Was ist das?" yeah, you get to get some fun things. I digress, as ever.
We do, but I think it's time. I think we're there. I think we're at the point where we can tie things up. We're like, so if I do this again, we're in the outro slides. Tim, well, firstly, okay, thanks all of you, 220 people who are watching this. Thank you very much. I don't know to what extent we've talked through the pictures. For the people who listen to this, there are people who are blind who actually listen to this as a podcast format. Which makes me quite excited. It's quite cool. So it's available. Thanks, Giel, who has joined us from the Netherlands. Giel is our podcast creator. I need to press this button here. And next episode, we're talking about the Fourth Bridge, which should be good. My favourite.
Oh, it's that picture of what's his name?
Yes, with there's a Japanese graduate engineer. It's the chap sat in the middle, and his story is quite interesting. So we're going to talk a little bit about the chap in the middle, as well as the Baker and Fowler either side. So that should be quite interesting. It'll be a little slower than the Advanced Passenger Train in this one, so we're not going to talk about as much, and it's going to be a little bit more open and chatty because we've hammered through and got hammered, chin chin. And so the next one's going to be a bit slower paced. I know, I'm fine. It's only one whiskey. Singleton Tailfire, very nice. So that's next episode. Do join us, same time again. Patreon, I have to do this because it lets me buy things like better microphones and functioning AV kit. It really does help, and it's also where you go to vote on the next theme and to input into the series. So there are people who have supported me on Patreon who get to change things about RailNatter, which is very exciting. And if you don't want to do that, you can throw things at me via Coffee and PayPal as well in the usual places. That's thank you so much. Let's get Tim's face back up. Tim, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, a real pleasure.
No, likewise. But thank you again. It's always a privilege to be able to share the things that we love, right? And I'm constantly surprised about the generosity of people's time they give to watch things that some have the opportunity to make. And genuinely, it is a privilege to be able to share stuff and go to places and open up doors that we might not normally get to do. And it only happens because we know there's an interest. And we only do it because we know there's an interest in this stuff, and it comes from the heart. So thank you very much indeed, anyone who watches this right now, and thank you for those who've said nice things about the programme and watched it, because it is there for you. So thank you.
And watch the Architecture the Railways built Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. on Yesterday, and see Tim do more things, and you've got a bit of an insight now. Thanks everyone for watching so much, and cheerio from us both. Cheerio.